Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Breaking Absolutes. I'm Peter Orullian, a musician and composer who had the notion that by having conversations with some of the musicians that are working in rock and metal who are, I think, pushing boundaries. They are doing creative work that at once deserves a broader audience and is doing things that I think equally is approachable and enjoyable by the folks who are already sort of dedicated to the genre. That we could do that. We could have conversations to deepen the relationship with artists, understand their process better, more of their music, more of who they are, and bring that to even more listeners potentially. So that's the desire. And if you dig what we're trying to do here, follow us, subscribe to the channel. It gives us a chance to keep reaching out to these kinds of artists like we are today with Arjen Lucassen. This is actually a part two. His career is so deep and sort of so expansive that it required more time. And even with the additional time that he'll give us today, there's more that we could spend, but there's some areas of his career that we just simply didn't have time to cover before. So we'll include a link to the first conversation that we had in the notes for this. But for those who are coming in here, Arjen has had success as a solo artist, may be most known for his Ayreon records, and there's an interesting etymology behind how that band name, project name, not really related to his name, near as they may seem to be when you look or hear them. He's done more than 20 albums. He has multiple live recordings, multiple staged shows of his work in meaningful theatrical ways. And he's worked with some of the biggest artists and bands, 50 plus, and this includes Avantasia and Within Temptation and After Forever. Today, what we're going to do is into some areas around some of the side groups. He's done a little bit more on his process for narrative work with concept records, and see what we can learn more about the man. So with that as the setup, let me bring Arjen on. Welcome.
Hi, Peter. Hi again.
Hi again. Here we are. Thank you so much for coming back and spending more time.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Okay. So, hey, as I was doing a little bit more reading about you as the person, I read a note that I wanted to just get your thought on it, that you had at one point actually had a bout of anosmia. Am I saying that correctly?
Anosmia.
Anosmia, sorry.
Anosmia, yeah. It was weird. I went out on the town in Amsterdam, actually with the band Mostly Autumn, with Heather Findlay, who was on several of my albums, and it was nice. We had a lot of fun and quite some drink, and we went into a hotel. And the next morning, I woke up and I was like, I don't taste my food. It's weird.
Wow,
I must get a cold, because usually when I had a cold, I wouldn't taste my food.
Yeah.
So I'm just getting a cold, but a week later it was still gone, and 2 weeks later it was still gone, and I was getting really worried. So I went to the doctor, and they did all these CT scans and stuff like that, and they said, "Well, I'm afraid you have anosmia, and there are three. There could be three reasons." One is you're just born with it. Another is trauma. You really hit your head really loud and the nerves are cut. And the last option is simply it's a virus. It's a cold virus going to the wrong place in your nose. So yeah, my smell is gone, which means that the flavor is gone. So the taste is on your tongue and on your palate, but taste is just sweet, sour, bitter, and salty. But flavor, of course, is what makes the food nice and interesting, and that's gone. So I went it was also just after my divorce. I went through a deep, deep depression after that because I was, eating was everything for me. It
Yeah.
was so important, and I was a good cook, and we went out to dinner often, and suddenly that's gone, on the one side it's terrible, of course, but on the other side it's good because from that moment on I started eating really healthy. I mean, why would you eat chips and mayonnaise and stuff like that if you don't taste it anyway?
Yeah.
So you start eating very healthy. So that was always look on the bright side of life.
Yeah. So that's still a condition for you, or is that since past?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
So is that continue to be a condition for you?
Well, then the doctor said, if you get it back, if you don't get it back within a year, it will always be gone.
Okay.
So I was like, I'll get it back. Bad things never happen to me. But unfortunately, it never came back. So it's gone. And unfortunately, also, it's getting less now. It's getting less, but it's your smell is getting less anyway as you get older.
Right.
Like my mother is 90, she doesn't smell anything anymore.
Right.
So the weird thing is that my smell is gone. It's getting worse, but my taste is getting stronger. And you would say that's good, but it's not. It simply means that I can't eat sweet anymore, and I can't eat salty anymore. It's when I eat sweet, it's like, oh my god, oh. So for instance, now I'm having these magnesium pills, and it's all without sugar. It's all, and so yeah, I got to eat everything without sugar. No sugar, no salt. Quite healthy too,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, I was going to say that probably keeps
Yeah.
you very lean.
Oh yeah. Well, as you can see. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's just an interesting side story. I had never actually heard.
And
of
now
that.
with COVID, it's actually a symptom. A lot of people get it from Corona.
Right, that's right.
But I think they get it back. I'm not sure. I haven't read too much about it, but I think it comes back after.
Yeah, that I think
while.
that's right. I think I've heard some people have some lingering effects, but for the most part,
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive back into the music. One of the things you mentioned last time we were talking that we didn't return to, and I want to be sure we do, is with regards to your solo work.
Right.
We discussed your first record, but you made a comment that your second solo record might be the record about which you are the most proud.
Oh yes.
Tell us about that.
It's 100% me. It's totally me. You hear it's so diverse. You go from Beatles stuff into Floyd stuff into Zeppelin stuff. Like I told you last time, all my favorites.
Yeah.
And I could do whatever I want. It's my solo album.
Sure.
And so it's got some very weird stuff. It's got some stuff that's sort of reminiscent to Ayreon. It's not a metal album. It has some heavy guitars here and there, of course, but because I'm not a metal singer, I have a very cute, sweet little voice, and I can't sing metal at all. So, but I can sing Beatles stuff. I mean, John Lennon is my favorite singer of all time, together with Dio and Robert Plant. But yeah, that's I can do that kind of Beatles stuff, and I also like doing it.
So and this is Lost in the New Reel.
Right, it is. Yeah.
For folks who are wondering what that record is, and then on this particular record, I had a note that you had a featured voice actor do some things.
Sorry, I had.
What I have is that actor Rutger Hauer did some narration.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. A dream come true, really.
Yeah.
I mean, as a kid, I grew up. I think I was 10 years old, and there was this Dutch series called Floris, and it was like this medieval knights and princesses and stuff like that. Totally cheesy, but I loved it, and I watched it again a few years ago, and I loved it just as much. It's so bad that it's good.
Yeah.
And of course, he was the hero, and I think that was the first thing he ever did. The director was Paul Verhoeven, who later on did a lot of movies with him. And then of course he was in Blade Runner, which is my favorite movie of all time, and he was so perfect in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's always been my favorite Dutch actor. And for this story, Lost in the Newville, I was looking for a voiceover, and I just tried. I went to his website and just sent him a mail. And I think within a few hours, I got a mail back. Yeah, I checked out your stuff and it's fantastic, and tell me more. And so I've been Skyping with my hero for 2 weeks, which it's surreal, someone
Yeah.
you looked up to all your life, and suddenly you're best friends. It was tough. I was so nervous every time, but at some point it was like, hey, what's for hey, and then we were Skyping with picture and stuff like that. And like he was on the film set, he was in the caravan where ladies were putting makeup on him, and we were just talking about the concept. And he insisted on writing his own text, which was very cool. And yeah, he was totally crazy. He died, unfortunately, as you may know, a few years ago.
Yeah.
He was totally crazy, really. He was like the character in Roy Batty in Blade Runner. That's him. He was as weird as that, but nevertheless, he was such a nice guy. And all the time also I wanted to, what is this going to cost, because I know the prices in the film world, because I had some other actors. It's, you pay a lot of money, and all the time it was good. Shouldn't we talk about money, because and at some point at the end he was like, well, I have this charity organization. If you want, you can send some money to that, and just send however much you want to send. So that was beautiful. That was great. It's the best thing in the world to meet your idols and not to be disappointed. That's such a great feeling.
Oh my gosh.
I had it a couple of times. I also had the opposite a couple of times, of course.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh my god. And that's sad, because then you can never watch their movies anymore. You can't listen to their music anymore without thinking of that. So it's scary. There's actually a couple of like my biggest hero, Alice Cooper. I had the chance to meet him a couple of times, and everyone tells me, I don't know if you ever spoke to him. Everyone tells me he's a great guy, he's fantastic. But what if he had a bad day, Yeah. And I'm just standing in front of him, and all I can say is, I'm your biggest fan. I have all your albums. What are you gonna say? Yeah. And he'll be like, hey, fuck off, man, I'm busy. That would be awful. So I had the chance to meet him a lot of times, but I didn't. And of course now I'm trying to get him for my albums, but it's hard,
Yeah.
It's really hard to get through to him. And I tried to get him for Star One, and I actually got through to his manager, who said, well, he only does things for friends now, and those friends are Johnny Depp and and what's his Aerosmith, Joe Perry and stuff like that, So yeah, no way for me to get through there.
Yeah, you make a lot of really good points there. It's when you meet someone you idolize, it's either going to confirm everything you hope about that person as a person, or it's going to violate your expectation.
I know.
And it can sour your. I've had that happen.
Oh, you had it happen. Yeah, you interviewed people. Of course, we're not going to tell who it was, but
I've like not as many as you, I'm sure, but I fortunate to get backstage at a lot of shows that come through town.
Right.
And some of those people are just beautiful, kind, approachable, humble people, and some of them are the sort of do represent the sort of rock star sort of arrogance. So that's always a bit of a disappointment.
You could just catch him at the wrong moment too, of course.
It's true. Yeah.
But all my life I've been so careful not to have a wrong moment. it would be because I know how it feels myself. I would never, never make a fan feel bad. I would always have time for them, and yeah, because I know how it feels, and also how good it feels. When
Right.
your idol is a nice guy, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right. That's exactly
And I
right.
had the same thing. Sorry to interrupt you
No.
with the last live show of Electric Castle. We needed a narrator, and as you may know, Star Trek. I'm a total Trekkie. I'm such a sci-fi nerd, and it all started with Star Trek. So
It,
I set my mind to I had to get a Star Trek actor, and it was this story about this omnipresent being, who can do everything, which is Q in Star Trek, John Delancey.
yeah.
So
Great
again,
character.
I contacted him and got through to his management, and his manager was like, no, he doesn't do that kind of thing. And then a day later, I got a mail from John Delancey. It was like, this mail comes in and it says John Delancey. It's like, oh my God, I'm talking to Q. And he was like, well, tell me more. I've been Googling you with my wife, and we like what we see and what we hear. Tell me more. And a couple of mails later, he was like, I'm in. And so yeah, he came to Holland, and we were together for a week, and he was here at my house, and such an extremely nice guy, and I'm still in contact with him. So yeah, I remember in the making of the live DVD, I talked about John Delancey, and I started crying. Like that moment, everything came out.
Yeah.
Like I was like, "Ah," and I was sitting there with the keyboard player, and he was like, yeah, take it easy. But yeah, that's beautiful when shit like that happens.
Yeah. Those are the extra little rewards
Oh yes, oh
that
yes.
you don't count on, but you cherish
No.
later.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's fun. Well, so I listened to a bunch of your second solo record. It's really good.
Okay, cool.
It's
Thank you.
it's fun to hear some different flavorings from you.
Oh yes. Oh
Um,
yes.
so will there be more solo stuff in the future?
Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to. I had so much fun making that album.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I can't plan. I do plan, but I never stick to the plan.
Yeah.
Really, I basically every next project is going to be a solo album because that's what I want to do. But then it's like, oh, this is too complicated. I can't sing this. I need another singer for this part. And before you know it, I got 20 other singers, and it's not a solo album anymore. So yeah, I try to make a solo album all the time. As I told you previous time, I always try to make a Pink Floyd album like Wish You Were Here, like
Yeah.
very calm all the way through, and I can't do it. I remember my album 01. It started with a very atmospheric, Beyond the Waves, I think it was, and that the whole album was going to be like that. It was going to be a solo album, like very Pink Floydy. But before you know it, I got these fat guitar riffs, and I hear this amazing singer, like, oh, I got to work with this guy, and before you know it, it's turning into a totally different project.
Yeah.
So yeah, to answer your question, I would love to, and I just keep trying until at some point
Yeah.
it's going to materialize.
Yeah, it'll happen eventually.
Oh yeah.
Well, I wanted to before we get to some of the side projects, I wanted to spend a little bit more time on concept albums, because it's certainly a hallmark of your career. Obviously, it's not all you've done, and we've talked about some of the other stuff, and we're going to talk about more of the other stuff. And we talked a lot about a lot of the Ayreon records last time, but I wanted to just kind of take the notion of the concept album, which we did touch upon, but there were some other things I was hoping to ask. You said that you always start with the music. The music's got to be right.
Yes.
And then a lot of the other stuff comes after. I'm wondering though, in the crafting of the music, are you thinking about, I know that I'm going to need a song that's very sort of epic, or I'm going to need a song that's more intimate. Like, is there any sort of emotion or anything that guides you in some of the song development?
I try not to think about it, really. I try just to let everything happened naturally, up to a certain point, up to the point where I've got these 50 little ideas, and then I'm going to start using my brain. Like, okay, what fits together? Like you said, the album needs to have an epic. Am I going to open with that epic? Am I going to close with it? Am I going to have certain themes return? But when I start, it's totally open-minded. Also, like I may have told you last time, when I start, I have no idea what it's going to become, So, because if I would know, it would limit me, So I
Yeah.
just want to let all the ideas come to me, work on them, and then at some point I need my brain, because it's it's too much happening at some point. It's too much organizing, getting all the singers, writing the story, getting the order of the songs right, and then I really have to think about it. But the first, I would say the first half year is like totally oblivious.
Yeah.
just grab the guitar and let it come to me.
Okay, so once you've done that, you've laid some music foundation, and then you start thinking maybe about the story a little bit. Are you and clearly you have an an affinity for science fiction, because not only have you written records like that, but we know that you are a fan of that kind of story from the movies you watch and everything else. When you start to think about the story, are you thinking about the story literally as just an escapist experience, like a cool sort of idea, or are you trying to explore themes of any sort of larger themes like grief or anything
No,
like that?
I try to avoid that because I never liked it as a child.
Yeah.
I want to offer escapism.
Okay.
That's as soon as I feel that people are trying to push a message down my throat, I don't like it anymore. I feel
Yeah.
manipulated, and I hate that. It's purely personal. If people want to do that, that's
Sure.
fine. That's good. That's good as long as it's a positive message. But I don't like it, and I'm sure a lot of people who know my music now say, yeah, but your albums are always about the end of the world and that we're treating our world wrong. True, and it just creeps in, and I try not to do it. Really, I try just to offer escapism, but between the lines, you always, your own opinion creeps in.
Yeah.
And yeah, there is the worry about the planet, and what are we doing and stuff like that. So yeah, that creeps into my story, but I try to avoid it, but can't. And if it comes in, I'm not going to stop it, because then again, I'm limiting myself, which I don't want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I love actually your response to that, because I feel the same way. It's always super transparent to me on an album, on a TV or film, even in a book, if the author has an agenda, and because or a message or a theme, because I think that it somehow it becomes more important than the story. More,
That's it. That's
yeah,
it. Right.
yeah.
Yes.
So I actually appreciate that, and of course you can't help but be you. So some of how you feel and think is going to infuse the work. But
Oh yeah.
I think that the idea of artists is first to entertain, and I think, and I'm like you, I have a bias against it. So as soon as I feel like I'm being preached to, I tend to back away.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good. But I wanted to ask, because everybody's different. Some people really, they love coming at things from a different point of view.
Right. Right. Yeah. Then again, if it's like totally nonsense, I don't like it either.
Yeah.
If it's totally flat, that's why I'm more a sci-fi person than a fantasy person. Because like, yeah, I'm more of a Trekkie than a Star Wars. There has to be
Okay.
something in it, without feeling manipulated. There has to be some depth to it.
Yeah.
But you have to find it yourself. That's what I like.
Is
If you know it's there and you can find it and it's not being pushed down your throat.
Is there a, this is a frivolous question, but is there a one of the Star Trek series that is your favorite of the various?
Well, I grew up with the original series, so
Okay.
obviously that's my favorite. You know, I mean, who can beat Spock? I mean, there you go. You know.
Yeah.
So when the Next Generation came out, I hated it. You know, because it was
Mhm.
like, and this robot, this Data is supposed to be the new Spock, and what about this captain? He's bald. You know, it's like I hated it, and then at some point, you know, you start watching it anyway because it's Star Trek.
Yeah.
And at some point, I loved it, you know.
Yeah.
And maybe it's, I mean, in many ways, of course, it's better than the old series, you know.
Yeah.
It looks better, the effects are better, the acting is better. There's a lot better. So yeah, I love the Next Generation. I mean, I got all these, got them all here,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
yeah. And yeah, there's a lot of terrible episodes, you know, the Wesley, the Wesley episodes, and stuff. But yeah, I would say maybe I like the Next Generation better than the old series. I mean, of course, it didn't really stand the test of time, you know, the old series. If you see it now, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
The
that
I mean the emotional quotient of the original series is there, but you know, it suffers from a lot of the, you know, being the first, and but I like you. I think my favorite is the Next Generation. I've
yes,
watched the
yeah.
others, but then I think the Next Generation is the one I
Yeah,
watch the
yeah,
most.
yeah. I couldn't get into the others.
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah, I could get into Enterprise, and that's one that no one likes.
Yeah.
But
That's the one where they
that
go
one I
back
like.
to in time, right? They go back to the beginning.
Um,
Wasn't that Enterprise?
I think. Well, yeah, there's a lot of time travel in every one of them, so that's hard to answer. But
Um,
yeah,
I'm thinking about the one where they started a series. This shows you that I'm not a deep Trekkie. Where
right,
they it's where the Federation started. So the timeline.
right, right,
Back.
right, right. Yes, yeah, 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 yeah. Kind
Anyway,
of like a prequel. Yeah, true.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, okay. Well, there's that's so we know you're Star Trek more than Star Wars.
Well, I like tracks more than wars. You know, I hate
Oh,
wars.
oh, there you go. That's
I,
a good distinction.
I hate I hate violence. Of course, I loved Star Wars. You know, I loved that the movie.
Sure.
I loved Harrison Ford and stuff like that, and I really enjoyed the movies. But I'm more of a Trekkie,
Yeah,
and yeah, it's all the shooting. You know, the and the laser fights. That's totally not my thing.
yeah,
Totally not my thing.
yeah,
I don't, I'm not much of an action. I don't like action and I don't like violence. And also in my music, uh, it's epic and it's big and it's powerful, but I think it's never violent.
okay.
And yeah, I don't like violence in music. But again, you know, I don't tell people don't do that or it's bad. It's just my personal
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah,
It's
and you
just my
get to make,
personal taste, not even my opinion, my taste. Yeah.
yeah, and it that's really, I like that because it gives your music a uniqueness. You're telling
I
these
hope so.
grand stories,
I hope so.
and you're not relying on. I don't have any personal moral compunctions about violence and storytelling necessarily,
Mhm.
but it's powerful to tell a human story or even a story with
True, true.
technology
Yeah,
where
yeah.
you don't lean upon violence as a storytelling
True,
crutch.
true. Actually, in a lot of my stories, there's no good and bad. I think only the last album, Transito's, there's really some good and bad. But
Yeah,
most of my stories don't have good and bad. It's just things happening.
yeah,
Yeah, just evolution. But yeah, the typical good and bad thing, I don't really like it that much. It's
that's not
again, it's
your.
the feeling that you're being manipulated. Oh, this I'm always watching shows with Laurie, and then there's this bad guy, and then we always say, "Guess we're not supposed to like that guy," And then you already feel manipulated. Oh, this is the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that there's a tendency to oversimplify characters.
Yeah.
You know,
I like it when you have to guess is it a good guy or a bad guy. I
yeah,
mean, an example comes to me now. It's silly, but it's in Lost. Have you seen Lost?
I have. Yeah,
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. And there's this guy. I forget his name now. And you're not sure if he's good or bad. I like that. You have to find out. And is
yeah,
he good or is he bad? And maybe he's really bad. He has some good in him, or he's really good and he has some bad in him. That's even better.
yeah.
That's yeah, character development. That's what I like.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's good. I think that bears out in your albums, and
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah.
it might be part of what's helped them be so resonant with your audience. I mean, I guess it's arguable that there are concept albums of all flavors that have success, but yours have a stamp, a signature to them that is uniquely yours. So keep doing what
Thank
you're
you.
doing. It's working. We love
It's
it.
all I can do, even though I'm trying to do other things, but I'm failing. So this is it, guys. Sorry.
I don't apologize for that. Yeah, we love it.
Yeah,
I
cool.
wanted to ask a question. You said last time that very often your vocalists, you'll give them some license to work
Yeah.
if they want to with the melodies and
Oh yes.
but I'm wondering what if any coaching you do give them. Is there times where you're like, look, this is kind of what's going on at a higher level in the story, so there's a little bit of like, I need some punch, I need some like big notes. Is there any coaching you give them there?
Oh yes, and that's why I like to have them in my studio.
Okay.
Which is not possible, at the moment, which
Right.
is terrible, and I hate it, I really need to have these people in my studio and motivate them and always tell them what's happening in the story, what kind of feeling it should have. That's very important to me, and I can't do that now, because I have to send them the guide vocals and they send it back to me, and I'm terrible. I'm never satisfied, so I send them back 3 more times. Like, can you change this? Can you adapt that? And it's I hope really that soon I can fly everyone into my studio again, because in my studio it always works out. Always, even if certain, you had Tommy on your show. I watched the whole thing. It was fantastic.
It was long.
Yeah. And he told you that he had voice problems when he came to my studio.
Yeah.
For Theory of Everything. So what did I do? We just changed all the melody lines, together. Grab a guitar, let's do it like this. Oh, that's equally cool, Okay, let's sing that a bit lower, and yeah, if he would have sent it to me and it wouldn't have been good, which happened a lot of times. You have to either tell the singers like, can you change this? Can change it? But sometimes you get it and it's like, okay, there's nothing I can do with it and I can't use it, and I have to tell this singer now that it's not good enough, and that's awful.
Yeah.
It happened to me a couple of times and it's terrible.
Yeah.
Same thing with soloists. If I ask someone to play solo on my album, I would never tell them what I want, because I asked this person because I love his style or her style. So it's always they do whatever they want, and but yeah, sometimes you get it and you just don't like it, and sometimes I ask them, can you please change it, and sometimes they say no, and then I have the decision, do I use it anyway, or do I just delete it and ask someone else?
Yeah, well, that's follows from having I think a pretty clear vision of what you're driving towards with your record. That's what a good producer has. Even though you've been honest and open about, your artists have some latitude to be creative. Nevertheless, like you have an ear for what's going to work, and I think
it's true.
Yeah, I think it's, I understand that a little bit. I think I told you I wrote a rock opera, and I remember I couldn't find voices that I wanted locally, so I had to use some of these online places to look
Right,
for
right. Yeah,
voices,
yeah, yeah.
and I would go through thousands and thousands of demo
Whoa,
reels to
whoa, whoa.
find the voice with the sound
Yeah,
that I needed for certain songs, and that's an exhausting process.
yeah.
Um, and then once you start to work and get takes back and start giving direction, I had a very clear vision of what that needed to be, and I there were times that there was it just it wasn't working, and the vocalist wasn't I wasn't maybe communicating clearly enough. So I
Yeah.
understand that process, and I can only imagine what that's like when you're working with musicians who are, big, successful, name career
True. Yeah,
musicians.
yeah. There were like some big names where I had to say like, sorry, it's not
Yeah.
working out. And
Yeah.
and also I have to admit there were some big names like that were so big that I used it anyway. Yeah, there you go. It's decisions you have to make all the time.
Yeah.
People ask me so many times, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you do that? And you can't tell them because every 10 seconds you have to take a decision, nope, 10 seconds later, another decision. And
Yeah.
all those decisions have to be right to get to that result. So you can't tell people how do you do that. You need
Yeah.
someone with an insight who makes the right decisions all the time.
Yeah.
And then people sometimes tell me, yeah, you're such a perfectionist, and what does it matter, if you close that hi-hat or open that hi-hat? I mean, are you going to sell 10,000 albums more if the hi-hat is closed?
Yeah.
But I don't agree with that. It's all these little details, all these little decisions, which add up to the end result,
That's right.
and that's what makes me a perfectionist.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think that it's attention to all of those things in aggregate that create these records that people love. If you
Hmm.
if you just powered through them without paying that attention, they wouldn't be what they are. Um,
No,
so
absolutely not. No.
yeah, so I appreciate I appreciate the perfectionism, and that's obviously going to create situations that aren't always ideal, but
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But I warn people. You know,
yeah.
I always warn people when I start to work with them, I'm a bloody perfectionist. And now you're still like, oh, that's good, keep me on my toes. But
Yeah.
at some point, you're gonna hate me.
Yeah.
And this is especially with like people who do artwork for me or who do layout for me or who make videos for me. In the beginning, it's all like, yeah, let's try this, let's try that. But then, months later, and I make these lists. They're like such long list for this second this has to happen, and this second it wasn't good, you have to change that. and
Oh my gosh.
and yeah, and
You
I drive people crazy. There are some people who really will never work with me again. um
well, you
and
I'm
there's
go ahead. Go ahead.
and there are some people who are like realize that they might learn something, and they
Yeah.
might, when you get to the end result and compare it with what we started with, they might say like, oh yeah, yeah, okay, you were right. And those are the people I will keep working with.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I,
there are some people who can shoot me. Yeah.
yeah, some people just that's just they're not they don't work that way. But I'm partly laughing because I did the exact same thing. It was some of these remote vocalists that I worked with. I would make
Yeah.
very long notes, very detailed notes at time markers of what vowel sounds needed to kind of
Oh
change in
yes.
different ways and where I
Yeah.
wanted breaths.
Cool.
So I understand exactly, and I think it comes from a clarity of vision, and so I love it. And I think it's why your records have this resonance, and particularly because you're telling these stories, and I think all of this attention to detail helps knit that together.
Oh
Um,
yes. Yeah.
so
Well, yeah, I see the big picture, and that's my big talent, because um, people often tell me, you're so polite, when I say like I'm not a good singer or I'm not a good guitar player, I'm not specifically a good writer or but I see the big picture, and that's my talent and that's my strength.
Yeah.
I know what's good and what's not good. I think that's what a lot what talent is about,
Yeah.
like recognizing what is good and what is not good.
Yeah.
All the time, again, all those decisions, every 10 seconds you have to recognize that's good, that's not good. And if you can't do that, you can't learn it either. You have it or you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. Well, speaking of all of this, is there any next record in the works, or is it too early to talk about that?
Yeah, of course, I'm still working on Star One. There's a couple of problems with singers, legal problems, and so that's shitty, then I can't use a singer that I really like and have to look for other singers. So I'm still in that process now. Basically, I'm ready with the album.
Okay.
But when I'm working on an album, I can't think about the next one. I have to really finish it, and I have to really be ready with it, and then slowly, I will hopefully. I always think the well is dry, but hopefully I'll get ideas for a new album.
Yeah.
But no, while I'm still working on an album and it's not totally finished yet, not even if it's only the artwork or the liner notes or the photos or the videos or whatever, I need to concentrate on one project.
Yeah.
So no idea what's gonna be after this. Well, so a solo album. Yeah.
Have you announced? So you don't actually know who the vocalist will be for the next Star One record? Is that what you're saying?
I'm gonna have to make some changes right now. Yeah. But I'm thinking of. I don't think I ever told anyone this yet officially, but I'm thinking of releasing 2 CDs because I've got so many great guide vocals now and so many vocals from other singers that it would be a pity not to release it. So I'm thinking now of releasing CD 1 and CD 2 because those vocals on CD 2 are just too good to miss. So I'm thinking about that now, which will make life easier for me.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's exciting. I know that you have done in the past sort of creative reveals of who's on the record when it starts getting close.
Oh yeah.
So
I'm really looking. I like that so much. I call it the guessing games, and people love it, and I love it. And it's you play an audio file of a singer, like a few lines, and then people have to guess who it is, and on Facebook.
Yeah.
And they can win something, some merch item or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's it's cool. There's like thousands and thousands of reactions, and especially if I have like a big name, like on the previous album, it's Joe Satriani, and I'm gonna put Joe Satriani on there, and then I'm just waiting what are people gonna say, and you feel like Steve Vai, John Petrucci, and there's a couple of no, it's Satriani clearly, and then you get like 100 people saying it's Satriani after that. But I love it so much, and I'm even thinking now because the first 2 Star One albums had the same cast of 4 singers: Floor Jansen, Russell Allen, Damien Wilson, and Dan Swano. But this album has, as I told you previous time, has a different singer for each track. Maybe it's just because I can do the guessing games again. If I had the same cast, I can't do the guessing games. So. So I've got I'm working on the guessing games right now. I've got 41 lined up. So I'm
holy cow!
I'm probably going to start soon, and there's some big names on there, and I'm looking forward to people's reactions of hearing it, and what are people gonna guess, also new talent, what are people gonna think of them, and it's teasing them a little bit too. I love to tease them a little bit.
I think the fans. I actually had some people from our first conversation mention this, and when I told,
they did. Okay. Who?
No, well, just people who said, because I think I asked them. I said something about asking about who was going to be on the next record, and
Yeah.
said, well, I'm sure that he'll do the guessing games again.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah.
So he's not going to tell you who it is.
No. So they know they should shut up. Yeah, they're gonna get in trouble with me. Yeah.
Oh, that'll be fun. So
Yeah.
sometime.
Yeah, it's really going. It's really going against the grain, because nowadays everyone shares everything the same moment,
Yeah.
on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever. So it's weird. I'm not doing that. I'm quiet for a year, and then suddenly, for a couple of months, I'm doing these guessing games. So it's people like it, and they can't Google it. That's the cool thing. They can't Google who is this, or voice recognition. I don't think that exists for singers.
Yeah.
So yeah, really nobody knows. So it's a very unique game, basically.
I think the fans enjoy that process.
They do. They're already asking me for it now. When are the guessing games going to start? And can you already give me a few tips? And I was like, no, because then it's no fun for you.
Yeah, that's right. And as soon as you tell one person, then everybody knows.
Yeah.
Well, let's shift gears then, and for a few minutes, I want to talk about side projects. I think does a disservice to what these are. These are other musical groups that you've begun, and we've talked a little bit about a few of them, but I wanted to go through them.
Sure.
And I'm not sure this is in any particular order, but the first is Ayreon. Am I saying that correctly?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And this was turned out to be just one album.
True. Yeah.
Although I think you said at one point that you might have been interested in doing more.
I'd love
but
to.
the singer kind of went into semi-retirement.
Yes. Well, actually, I just bought a Pro Tools, which is like a recording system on the computer.
Yeah, that's what I use. I know that one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it, I guess.
Yeah.
And I had to learn the program. So I hate learning stuff, and I hate reading stuff. I just want to work. So I thought, well, let's just get help, someone who helps me, and we work for 2 weeks on a new album. And that's the way I'm going to learn how to use Pro Tools. Yeah. But I didn't have any ideas yet. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? I'm just going to take my old albums, and there's all these cool synthesizers, sequencers beneath the music that kind of got buried in the music. So let's surface them and let's make new songs out of them. So that was the whole plan.
Okay.
So I made all these new songs out of old songs that you really didn't recognize anymore. And then at a certain point, I was like, well, a little bit like Mike Oldfield did. He had like vocals on 1 or 2 songs, female vocals. I'm thinking of Moonlight Shadow. That was Mike Oldfield, right? Yeah. So that's what I wanted to do. So then I got a message from someone who said, well, there's this 14-year young girl, that I heard, and she's great, and she's Dutch. And I was like, yeah, sure, But then I heard it and was, oh my God, this is so good. This is so good. So I invited her, and she came over with her whole family. And she came in my studio, and I was like, she was in my studio, and so this is a microphone, yeah, and you have to put the headphones on. Yeah, but I can't hear you if I put headphones on. No, you'll hear the music on. That's really the way it went. And she started singing. It was like crying and goosebumps, and it was so amazing. And she just came up with her own melodies, and 14 years young, and so amazing. So she did these 2 songs, and it was so good that I was like, I want those vocals on all the songs.
Yeah.
So instead of becoming a vocal album, an instrumental album with 2 vocal songs, it became a vocal album with 2 just instrumental songs.
Yeah.
And she was amazing, and yeah, she went through a lot after that, and unfortunately, we're still good friends, and we still message each other every now and then. But she's chosen a different path, a higher path.
Okay.
And this just, it doesn't fit in her Yeah, she just she's not available anymore, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
it feels weird for me to do another ambient with someone else. It just doesn't feel. I could do it. I mean, there are plenty of great female singers, or I could do it with like Simone or Anneke or whatever, but it doesn't feel right. Ambient was
Yeah.
her, so that will be a one-off.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. This is sometimes it's fun to have unique, deep cut
Yeah,
records
true.
that you can return to.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
We've talked quite a bit about Star One.
Mhm.
This is the one sort of side thing. Again, I don't think that's a great term, but it's a group. Is it the only one that's had multiple records that you've been a part of?
Whoa. Apart from my solo albums, I think so. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
read that somewhere because we're going to talk about Stream of Passion and Guilt Machine, but I
right.
I think that this is the one sort of side thing where the multiplicity of records are all things that you have written.
True, true. Yeah,
Um, okay, so let's talk about Stream of Passion then.
sure.
The this strikes me as a little bit the music a little bit more conventional progressive metal than some of the other stuff. How would you
Uh,
describe? How do you think about Stream of Passion kind of in your body of work?
Basically, it was leftovers from the Human Equation, my Ayreon album,
Okay.
Human Equation. On the Human Equation, I had I had asked the fans. I got all these big names on the album. I had James Dupree and Mikael Akerveld and Devin Townsend. I also wanted an unknown name on there, and then I got like 20 or no 200 at least. Well, you know how much work it is to listen to uh, 200 entries. You said thousands. I was like, oh my god. I had to pick a singer from that, and in the end I picked Marcela Bovio from Mexico. So she came from Mexico, and she was the unknown name on the Human Equation album, and she did so great, and she was such a nice, intelligent, beautiful girl that I wanted to do something else with her. That sounded weird. Sorry, musically.
I I understood.
and and yeah, um, so I was like, let's do a solo album, and I still have some ideas that I didn't use on the Human Equation. Let's work on that. And I just sent her those ideas instrumentally, and she made her own vocals for it. And we also made some new songs. And at a certain point, we had this album together. And she said, well, why don't we make a band out of it? Not a solo album, but a band. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I tried to find people here and there, mostly unknown musicians, to join the band. And so yeah, we got this group together. We recorded the album, and of course, we were thinking about playing live, and they were like, please come with us, play in the band. And I was like, well, okay. So I was in the band too, and we did a tour, and it was all great. And but it's not my life anymore to play live, and I'm not
Right.
good at it, and it's not my passion. So after one album, I was like, great, that was it for me. And a couple of other members also stopped, and luckily the band continued,
Yeah.
on their own. So all without me. I didn't write for them. I didn't help them or anything. Well, I helped them, of course, but they were totally on their own. So they made a couple of great albums after I left.
Yeah. So the question I have there is one of the questions I have is there were these songs left over from the Human Equation. Were these
Yeah,
songs you had just written just too much material for one
right.
record, or was this stuff that just didn't quite fit
It
with?
didn't fit. It
Okay.
didn't fit. It was mostly atmospheric stuff, and it was mostly ballads. And
Okay.
I felt the balance would be wrong. I think Human Equation is already quite it's not a metal album like later albums Zero One or The Source were.
Yeah.
It's and more ballads, more quiet songs would have tipped the balance. It would not have been good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a really interesting way to. So when you're writing, you just write what comes, and then as you piece the album together, you have things that don't fit, but that you can
True.
reuse.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, basically, I never reuse things. You know, if I didn't use it, I often just throw it away.
Throw
But
it away.
with Human Equation, it was a very, I just changed label. I worked for Inside Out, and I had a lot of inspiration. And there I really had some ideas that I really liked that I may have used for another album, but now, or for next Ayreon. But now, you know, I had this project with Marcela. So.
Okay. Excellent. So now let's talk about Guilt Machine. This one, I'm kind of looking through the people there's some pretty big names on this record. Did you pull this together? How did this one get rolling? Was this another thing where you had music that didn't fit into the project?
No. I really, it was time for me. I had Ayreon. Basically, Ayreon is my mothership. It has all the styles of music I like.
Yeah.
It has metal, prog, electronic, folk, singer-songwriter, anything is on there. And sometimes I like to limit myself. I just like to concentrate on one style. Like the Ambient album was very ambient, hence the name.
Yeah.
And Star One obviously is based on the metal side of Ayreon. So you won't find any violins and dulcimers and mandolins and cellos and hobos and shit on Star One, you know.
Yeah.
With Guilt Machine, I wanted to make my Pink Floyd album basically, which I failed because, you know, I get out the guitar and out come the heavy riffs, you know, and gone is poor Pink Floyd. So yeah, that was just focus more on the atmospheric side, but not too ambient. You know, still pretty heavy. And at some point, I wanted to do it just with one singer. But I didn't want a metal singer. So for a long time, I was working with a guy of Remy Zero. I don't know if you ever heard that band.
I have, yeah.
That singer is amazing, so incredibly good. But unfortunately, things went wrong, or I lost contact with him, or whatever. I don't know what was going on in his world. And then I heard about Jasper, who is like basically a Belgian pop singer, you know, and such a great voice. I mean, yeah, compare it a bit to Jeff Buckley or Muse, you know, that kind of style, a very high, clear voice.
Yeah.
So we went to see him live, and he was like totally amazing. And I thought, you know, and probably he still is a big star in Belgium, also on TV and shit like that. I was like, I'm not going to be able to get him, and he's probably going to hate metal. But I was in luck because I approached him, and he was like, yeah, metal. And then he saw I worked with Bruce Dickinson, and he happened to be a huge Bruce Dickinson Iron Maiden fan. So that caught his interest. So he came by and we worked, and we really hit it off, and it went really well. And he especially enjoyed making all those weird harmonies and melodies and stuff like that. And my girlfriend Laurie wrote all the lyrics, and the lyrics are really, really deep. It's not something I could write, you know. I'm not good enough for that. They're like really deep, and every line is very cryptic, but still, you know, there's a lot behind it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it suddenly turned sort of into a group. I played all the guitars and bass. Laurie, my girlfriend who wrote the lyrics, played all the guitar solos. Jasper Steveling, the Belgian singer, sang all the vocals. And then I needed a drummer, and at that point I was a huge Porcupine Tree fan, and I saw them live many times. And Chris Maitland was their drummer. It was still before what's his name now? The drummer afterwards.
I can't place it.
King Crimson now. Anyway, Chris Maitland was the drummer of Porcupine Tree, and I loved his drums. So yeah, luckily I managed to get him for the album. So he came over from England and played drums on the album.
Yeah, that's really good music. There's another place I commend folks who maybe area of your musical life that they're less familiar with. It's worth the side trip to go.
I love that album. I remember a few years ago I went jogging and let's listen to it, you know, and I was like, oh my God, without sounding too arrogant, I was like, oh my God, this is so good. And somehow it didn't connect with the Ayreon fans. Somehow it wasn't the success that it should have been.
Yeah,
Maybe because it didn't have a story, it wasn't a concept album, it didn't have all these big names on it. It had a singer was not from the metal realm, you know. That's how dare you. Um, so
yes,
yeah, the people who did like it think it's my best album, but the opinions vary.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you do your best work, and the chips fall where they will fall.
Right, yeah,
But
yeah.
you said something there that I want to follow up on. You said wasn't a metal singer. What in your I know that this changes based upon the person, but in your
Mhm.
mind, what constitutes a metal singer when you think about
Grit.
grit?
There has to be some grit, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's I think that for a lot of folks that's one of the qualification. There's grit, some rasp in the voice to give it some
Yeah.
kind of edge. Um, so, and the reason I ask is because then there are guys like, you know, James LaBrie and Jeff Tate and Bruce Dickinson, who largely are not known for grit, and they're mostly known for their sailing like range.
Right,
Um,
right. That's important. The high range and of course the vibrato. You
yeah,
know, vibrato is so incredibly important for me, and not like this fast one because I have a terrible fast vibrato. That's all I can do. Is, you know. But yeah, singers with this, and of course the ultimate god is Dio. Of course, if you think about
sure.
vibrato, his vibrato is perfect.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that's the vibrato of all vibratos.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel the same way. I feel when you get a deeper oscillation in the vibrato, there's a certain character and strength that it projects that isn't
right.
there when the vibrato oscillates really quickly. And I'm not trying to throw shade on that, but there are vocalists like, Barbara Streisand and some others who are
Yeah.
great vocalists, but
Yeah.
their vibrato is not what I prefer in vibrato
No,
because
no,
it's so
no.
quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love to hear how people think about that. You and I are of like minds there.
Yeah.
About
Well, the
metal.
three singers you mentioned, of course, Jeff Tate and James LaBrie and Bruce Dickinson, they all have that slow vibrato, you know, especially Bruce Dickinson. His vibrato is amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, of course, I had him in my studio and he was standing there, one foot on the speaker like he does live, you know, and that vibrato came in and it's like, oh, you know, sail away on that vibrato. Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. Those are some of the high practitioners right there.
Some singers who have too much, where it's like going too wide, you know, that's not good either.
Yeah. Yeah, I one of the things that I've been fascinated by as I listen to some vocalists is some vocalists have control over the oscillation.
Yes.
So they'll find a return of the cycle to fit the measures that they're doing,
Right.
or the tempo. And
Yeah.
I'm always
They can
impressed
even
by
double
that.
it.
Yeah,
It's amazing. Some singers they just double their vibrato.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
That
And I had a few in the studio, and that's you know, a lot of Dio's vocals are actually like on Long Live Rock and Roll and stuff like that are doubled. And it would be a shame if you have a beautiful vibrato, you double it, and you know the two vibratos cancel each other out.
yeah,
But if you are able to double your vibrato, you're on top, you know.
yeah, yeah. Having that control, that's part of the high art for vocalists for sure.
Right, yeah.
The last group I wanted to talk about is the Gentle Storm. And this was a return to your collaborative efforts with Annika, yeah?
Yeah.
Um,
By coincidence again, yeah.
okay. So by coincidence, do you guys just decide?
Well, no, I was just working on something. I wanted to do something classical, you know. I hadn't done that. Like, so I listened to a lot of classical music, which I never did in my life. I think classical music is a bit boring I need vocals, and
Yeah.
classical music is often meandering. You got this great theme, and then the rest is just meandering. So I could never get through it, But
Yeah.
I started listening to classic, and there's a lot of good stuff there. So I wanted to do something classical, something folky, and I was just working on it. I had no plans at all. I was just working on all these songs, and I think at some point I even wanted to do something with Russell. I had Russell in mind, and at that point I just got a mail from Anneke. Hey, how are you doing? And that was it. Anneke called me, and suddenly I thought, would this be something for Anneke? So I told her about it, and I told her that I wanted to be a concept album, and she loved the idea.
Yeah. And that it was there was a lot of music. Was that a double album?
Actually, it's I always come up with these new things. It was the same album, the same music, but one was totally huge and with orchestra and big with drums and guitars, and the other one was totally acoustic, so all real acoustic instruments. So there was really two views on the same songs, two totally different, contrasting views on the same songs.
Wow, that's an exciting
Yeah, and she
approach.
even sang them twice, one with more grit, of course, the big one,
Yeah.
and the one very clean and sweet. And yeah, I love them both. Really, I couldn't choose. And of course, it's called The Gentle Storm. So one album was called The Gentle Album, and the other one was The Storm Album, of
I
course.
like it. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. And I listened back to it, and I don't think I can make an album that's better. So that's why I'm not thinking of doing another one. I
Okay.
think in that style, if I want to do something like that, I really I don't think I can make something better. So
Wow,
I think
that's
that would be a one-off too.
yeah. Well, and it has some interesting features that I read about. You can tell me if this is true, that it was a first record that featured double bass in the instruments.
True, yeah. It's the first time I used. Usually, you just use plugins. It's much easier, much cheaper, much faster. But now I was doing this acoustic album, and it's just a rule. Sometimes I have rules, and it's like I want every instrument to be real. So yeah, I had a real double bass, which, by the way, totally ruined my car.
What? How did that happen?
It just came up now. I had the beautiful Mercedes, and it didn't fit in the trunk, so we had to put it across inside, and it had to lean on the dashboard. So we drove from the train station to my studio, and we got the bass out, and all the time this bass had been banging on my dashboard, so there was totally holes everywhere.
Oh no.
Yeah, and even the bass was sort of damaged. So all during the recording, we heard like, oh, it was a disaster.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's too bad. Well,
yeah,
but you got a great story to tell now.
yeah. It's the first time I told anyone actually. Well, of course, I had to tell my girlfriend, like, oh my God, sorry.
Yeah, honey, I ruined the car.
Yeah.
I also
Well,
read that something happened and you had to completely retrack the drums in one day.
yes, yeah. We usually we record the drums in SandLane, and I always record that, and it's always good. But this time, an old friend of mine, whom the guy I started Ayreon with, the first album was recorded in his garage, and without him, there wouldn't have been an Ayreon. And he was like, I got this new studio, and could we do drums there? And it was like, my old friends, my old mate, so I asked the drummer, you think it's okay? Yeah, let's do it there. But that guy was not ready, we went in there, and he didn't have headphones, and didn't have certain mics, and he had to still solder cables. And so we were there for a week or something. Usually we tracked the drums in 2 days, and there were so many mistakes, and it was crappy week. And I at the end I came home with the recordings, and I noticed that there were toms missing, just tracks not recorded.
Oh wow.
So I contacted my friend, who is not my friend anymore, unfortunately, and I was like, "Hey, man, this is too much. This is totally crap." And he, "Oh, well, then you can't use it." And I said, "Well, I don't even want to use it." So without thinking about it, I called Sandlane. I said, "Sorry, I should have picked you guys first. Can we record it?" "Yeah, sure, come over." So we went there, and Ed recorded the whole album in one day.
Wow.
That was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
another great story.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm just impressed as I go through this journey of all of this. I mean, we've already talked about so much of your solo and principal work, and this like increasing list of very, very interesting, differentiated music with great players. It's an impressive body of work, and it's the reason I wanted to have you back on the show, because I think it deserves some conversation. So I really thank you for spending another hour plus with us to talk about it.
You're very welcome, man. I enjoyed it, really. It's
So I
always good to talk about yourself.
well, people are loving our first conversation, so I know they'll love this
Oh,
one too.
great. Cool,
It
cool.
sounds like I always ask what's next. It sounds like the thing next is trying to finish up this Star One record.
True, well, it's almost finished. And what I would love to do is because I just mixed the new Star One album in 5.1.
Okay. Wow.
And we're releasing the record label is releasing all my Ayreon albums on vinyl chronologically,
Oh,
which
good.
means that the next ones, we did Electric Castle last time, so the next times are going to be Universal Migrator albums. And I would love to remix them because I think they can sound a lot better. I did the same with Electric Castle, but I think I can remix them, and I also would love to do a 5.1 mix. So that might be the next project, because I don't need to have inspiration for that.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't have that, like that sort of sword hanging above me. Like, now you gotta make the new album. You gotta have inspiration. So I think that's a good way to bridge the long time I have to wait for the release of Star One.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time, because I don't know if you know this, but the production of vinyl is terrible now. I think in the US it's like you have to wait for 6 months now.
Wow.
It's terrible, and here in Europe it's like 4 or 5 months. So yeah, it'll be a long way till the release. So this is a good way to bridge that time and remix those two albums, the Universal Migrate album, make a 5.1 mix, and I think that's going to be the next project.
And it sounds like you for some time now you've been working in Pro Tools.
Yes, yeah, ever since Ambient. So that was in 2000 or something.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll look forward to those remixes. That's
I think it will be. I think I really like with Electric Castle. The original sounds so good that I didn't know if I could do a better job, and I'm still not sure if I did. But with this album, I really feel that I can do something better. So
yeah.
that's something I would like to do.
And then my last question for you is, I think I know the answer to this, but I always ask if there's another mountain an artist wants to climb, by which I mean it could be a different creative endeavor like painting. It could be non-creative, like, I don't know, pouring cement. I shouldn't say that. There's probably an art and craft to that too, that I'm just I'm not aware of. But that sometimes an artist, they're so busy with music, but at some point in their life, there's a thing they would like to try. Do you have anything like that?
You know what my answer is going to be, right?
I do, yeah. From our last conversation.
It's all music, man. I'm so one track minded. I've always been, ever since I was a little kid, everything was about music.
Yeah.
So any time I don't spend on music is wasted time. So yeah, my girlfriend often tells me, go paint, or go draw again, because I was really good when I was a kid at drawing. But I would just have to pick it up and learn it again. And as I told you earlier, I don't want to learn things. I'm good at making music and producing stuff. So I'll find my mountains within the music.
Within music. Yeah. Is there a particular musical style that you've not tried that you think you will?
I think I did everything on Ayreon, you know, every style I liked. If I would do a new style now, it would be something I don't like.
Ah, yeah.
Because, you know, yeah, how long have I been doing Ayreon? More than 25 years.
Yeah.
And every time I try to do something new, so every time something new creeps in. So
Well, you know what? We're all happy if you just keep making music.
I will do that.
You keep doing that.
It's a promise.
Yeah, it's a promise.
Yeah.
Well, gosh, you've been so generous. Thank you again. These have been wonderful conversations. I've learned
Great.
so much, and it's been, I think, very
Cool.
inspirational
Cool.
for others
Well,
too.
for me too, man. And really, I saw a couple of your other interviews. It's fantastic. I really, really enjoy it.
Oh,
I
thank
saw the
you.
one with Floor and the one with Tommy and the one with Troy. That was very cool. What a nice guy he is.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of these folks are folks that you've worked with.
Right, yeah, almost all of them. It's like
Almost all of them.
I said my girlfriend, like, he's just has this Ayreon now in front of him. Which one's gonna be next?
That's right.
Yeah.
Russell, Floor, Troy,
Yeah, yeah.
Tommy, all those guys
Tommy.
have worked with you. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's well, you've worked with so many great artists.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's a pleasure to get to talk to the linchpin.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
All right, my friend. Well, if you'll just hold on the line so I can say a personal goodbye, I'll play
Sure.
the outro for the folk on the stream. But until then, you take good care of yourself.
I will.